If you had to choose between a strong resume or a fantastic LinkedIn profile, which would you choose to help you find a job faster? Today, we're talking about resumes versus LinkedIn, their strengths, their weaknesses, and the one that you need to focus on most in your job search process. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 17 of the Recruiting Hero Show. I am your host, Colin Whittington. I am so honored to have you all here today for a few minutes to talk about resumes and LinkedIn, two of the most important things in your job search process. But which one's the most important? I'm sure you have an opinion on that matter. So do comment below. If it's your resume, let me know. If it's your LinkedIn profile, share that as well. I'll be answering that question here today. I do want to let you know I am giving away our Heroes Job Search Guide. This fantastic resource is for veterans and first responders, as well as other candidates as well. And it comes with our professional resume template, instructions on how to write a fantastic resume, step-by-step instructions on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, and so much more. Used to sell this for like $85, but now it's totally for free. So do go and get your copy. I'll link it down below. And then it'll also be on our website, which is recruitingheroesllc.com. And we are a national employment agency dedicated to helping veterans and first responders, especially law enforcement, with their transition from a life of service to the private sector. We have now helped hundreds of heroes, as we call you all, in their search for a new career. And I hope we can help you next. So do check out our website as well for all of our amazing services. As always, please like this video, comment below, especially if you have an opinion on LinkedIn versus resume, and then subscribe to this channel. It helps us grow, it helps us reach more people, and that is just good for everybody because more veterans and first responders in the workforce is great for America, and it's great for those heroes as well. So I do hope you can do that for me. I'd really appreciate it. But let's get into it. Let's start with resumes. I'm a professional resume writer. All I do every day, not all I do, a large part of what I do every day is write resumes for veterans and law enforcement officers. And I love resumes. I think they are so important. And one of the reasons I started this business is because of how little emphasis the military and law enforcement places on resumes. So I was seeing a lot of people leaving, a life of service and trying to go to the private sector without having a strong resume. These are people who have had amazing careers, could bring so much to an organization, but they didn't know how to put it down on paper. And unfortunately, in this current job market, if you're not highlighting who you are as a candidate and what you could offer an organization on your resume, your chances of getting to the interview phase even are slim to none, let alone trying to get hired by these companies. So that's what really drove me to start my business. And so I have a special place in my heart for resumes. I think they're so important. What's cool with a resume is you can tailor it towards the jobs you're applying for. And if you follow my channel now for a while, that's one of the biggest things I stress to my candidates is to tailor your resume for each job. It's not good enough to have one resume that you send everywhere. Every time you apply for a job, you should be tweaking your resume to make sure it's a strong fit. That way it can do well in the applicant tracking system, scan, as well as just show the recruiter that you're actually interested in their organization and that you're not just sending the same resume to everybody. You took the time to tailor your resume towards the job that he or she is recruiting for. So that's a big plus. Again, applicant tracking friendly. I get a lot of resumes every single day for the jobs I'm recruiting for. And when you have a resume that just pops out as being fantastic, it makes your job so much easier as a recruiter. And I'm so much more likely to spend more time on that candidate. I've mentioned in the past, the average recruiter only spends 7.4 seconds looking at your resume. So you only have a handful of seconds to impress that recruiter. And if you're not setting your resume up for success, that's going to absolutely hurt you. So that's what's great about resumes as well. And you can really focus on your achievements. And that's what I really stress when I work on resumes for veterans and law enforcement officers is don't just give generic job descriptions about what you've done. Talk about what you have actually accomplished, your achievements using data, metrics, and action verbs. So again, instead of just saying that you responded to calls for service, talk about how you responded to an average of 13 calls for service today, averaging 4 arrests per week, and having a case closure percentage of around 85%. Just adding in things like that to show how much emphasis, how important it is, the job that you do, how you're able to handle many things at once, and how you are just a high performer in your organization, and how that will translate well to the next organization as well. And that's what's really cool with a resume is you can really highlight your achievements. Some of the cons, one of the biggest ones, honestly, with a resume is its lack of visibility. Your resume may only live on your computer or to the jobs you apply to. An average recruiter looking around the social media or looking on LinkedIn, looking on job boards, isn't really going to find you unless you're somewhere in their database already. So it just doesn't have a very big reach. So that's a big downside of a resume, is that it's only visible to ones that you like pretty much put it in front of their face. It's not something that, for the most part, recruiters will find on their own. That's a huge downside about resumes. It's harder to update in real time. If a job comes available really quickly, you might be scrambling to make an update to that. So it's not always up to date, especially if a recruiter has an older version of your resume for whatever reason. It's just not totally in line with what's currently, highlighting who you are as a candidate. And then with resumes, you only have really 2 pages. It's very structured the way it's supposed to be written, very professional. So you can't really give your personality in your resume too much. You're not supposed to be talking in the first person. You're not supposed to be saying I, things like that. So it makes it harder to really show off who you are as a person. Whereas on other options, which we'll talk about shortly on LinkedIn, you are more flexible with showing off your actual personality. So those are probably the biggest downsides about resumes. But let's go talk about LinkedIn. If anyone follows me on LinkedIn, you know that I'm on the platform all the time. I live on LinkedIn, and I do apologize for that. It's just such an awesome platform. And no, they do not pay me to say that. I actually pay them a crap ton of money every single year. I use LinkedIn Recruiter, which for my company costs around $10,000 a year. So it's a huge expense. Fortunately, it is such a great platform. Not unfortunately or fortunately, such a good platform. And LinkedIn knows it is, so they can charge pretty much whatever they want to recruiters, and you kind of have to suck it up and pay for it. But even before I was paying for the platform, I started seeing the value in it. I wish I had been on LinkedIn sooner, but I used it heavily during my time in law enforcement recruiting. And then obviously during my transition to the private sector, it was instrumental. I found my first job through a connection I made on LinkedIn. It then inspired me to start my business through all the messages I was receiving on LinkedIn. It's helped grow my business. It then made my book, Beyond the Thin Blue Line, Amazon bestseller, which was very cool. And now I'm using it every single day to help my candidates as well. Really cool things about LinkedIn, of course, are, it's, if you've ever spoken to a recruiter, he or she will probably tell you that they spend a ton of time on LinkedIn, just like I do. If I'm looking for a job for a company, right, or my recruiters are, we will always post the job on our website and on all the job boards, of course. And now and then we will find some candidates who apply through those means, and we'll make a placement in that way. But I got to tell you, at least 70 to 75% of all the candidates that we place with these companies that we're partnered with, we find through our own searching on LinkedIn. It is pretty amazing. LinkedIn Recruiter allows us to search for candidates based on a variety of factors, including the location, job type, degree type, experience level, industry, certifications, keywords. There's so many different filters on LinkedIn Recruiter that allow us to really find candidates with very specific skills. So we'll do that sourcing, and I'll do another video on this in the future, but we'll actually source candidates on LinkedIn, and then we will cold message and cold call these candidates and saying, hey, my name is Colin. I'm recruiting on behalf of company X, Y, or Z for this position. Are you interested? And we'll send those messages to the ones to all the candidates who show up in our search, meeting that criteria. And a handful of them, of course, will say, no, I'm not interested. But the ones who do, those are what we call passive candidates, because they're not actively applying to our jobs. But when approached with the right opportunity, they are absolutely interested, and they are usually the best candidates. This only works if your LinkedIn profile is optimized and set up for success. If your LinkedIn profile is lacking the keywords, the things that recruiters are searching for, you won't show up in our search. So even if you are the world's greatest candidate for the position, if your LinkedIn profile is lacking, we won't find you. So having a strong LinkedIn profile is super important, just for the fact that recruiters spend so much time on it. It's a good place for you to make connections. Obviously, network on LinkedIn is huge. It's the largest professional networking site in the world with 900 million users around the world. You can connect with people, you can build relationships. They can recommend or endorse you, which is huge as well. If you start seeing candidates who have all kind of endorsements from previous bosses, supervisors, coworkers, that's going to make a recruiter pay attention and look at you. And the networking you can do on that platform can help you years down the road. So I always encourage people, even once you've found the next job or your next career, stay active on LinkedIn. So many candidates make the mistake of only using the platform when they're actively looking for a job. And that's the wrong way to go about it. LinkedIn is powerful if you use it consistently. Building a strong network takes time. You're not going to do it over, a day or a month or maybe even a year. It could take many, many years. But let's say you found your dream job today. Awesome. Congratulations. I'm really pumped for you. But now continue on LinkedIn because you might make a connection request. You might connect with somebody tomorrow, on your very first day in the new job that 3 years from now, when you're looking for another job again, could help you in that process. So continue to build on your network and don't just, send random connection requests. That's not what I mean. The goal isn't to have the biggest number of followers. That doesn't matter. You want to have a powerful network of people that align with your interests and in the industries that you're passionate about and that can potentially help you and that you can also help them. I'm a big believer in giving is more important than receiving. And the more you give people, you give free advice, you give resources, you give services, you're going to get that back and then tenfold. So continue to be a resource to others because then they'll be a resource for you when the time comes. I mentioned about the lack of personality on resumes, and that's absolutely the case. On LinkedIn, you can be way more of a personality. Not to say that you should be a jokester on there and be doing ridiculous stuff, but you can really highlight who you are and what you believe in. The about section on LinkedIn is kind of like the executive summary of a resume, but instead of having only like 4 or 5 lines for a resume, you have up to 20, I think it's 2,200 characters now on LinkedIn. So you can go in way more detail. Also, it allows you to actually use first person and talk about, I did this, I believe in this is what I really want to do with my career. So that's fantastic. You can really show off who you are and what you believe in. Same with your background image. I really think everyone should have a strong background photo. And again, it's not necessarily super important what you have there, but more that you have something there. And of course, keep it professional. Don't have something inappropriate there. But if you want to highlight something that means a lot to you personally, even outside of the professional world, that's great as well. If you're from a certain country and you want to highlight that, do that. If you spend time in law enforcement and you're proud of that, put something law enforcement related. You can really show your personality more on LinkedIn, which I think is super cool. That's one of the cons of LinkedIn. Unlike a resume, which you can tailor towards a certain job, it's hard to do that on LinkedIn. Yes, you can, of course, tailor your resume towards an industry. So if you are trying to get into the security industry, you can make sure that a lot of the keywords for security type of roles are embedded into your profile. However, if you're a candidate who is trying to apply for a variety of jobs in different industries, it's going to be hard to really tailor your profile to each one of those because you're not going to be changing your profile with each application like you would on a resume. You can easily change a resume for each submission. A profile is pretty much going to, stay a consistent theme. You're not going to be changing it every single application, every single job. So that's definitely one downside. Another one, it does require consistent upkeep and engagement. If you create a great profile, but you're never on the platform, your engagement numbers will go down and down and down, and that'll actually make you less visible to recruiters as well. The very best people on LinkedIn are the ones who are very consistent with it. This doesn't mean you have to post every single day. You could post once a week or once a month, as long as you're consistent with it. And I think just beyond your own personal posting, I think engaging with other people's posts is equally, if not more important. It allows you to give your opinions on topics others are addressing, and it can help you show that you're an expert in certain fields and grow your network as well. If you comment on someone's post who you're connected with, your comment will now be visible to all of his or her connections who you might not be connected with. And if you provide a great answer to a question or on a topic, you might grow your own network that way as well, where someone might see your response and say, oh, this person really knows what he or she's talking about. I should be connected with them. And that's a great way to grow your business. But it does take consistent effort. It's not going to be something that's super easy and just one and done kind of deal. And then not all industries, really focus on LinkedIn. I think it's definitely changing nowadays. More and more recruiters and companies are focusing on LinkedIn, but it's not always going to be the case. If you're in a transportation industry, for example, they might not really be on LinkedIn, whereas like IT are heavily on LinkedIn. So it really depends on your industry, but I do think that's slowly starting to change. So while I have it as a con currently, I think it's going away slowly, where more people are realizing the potential of LinkedIn, because I think it's grown tremendously. The platform has grown tremendously over the last handful of years and will continue to do so. So those are some of the cons about LinkedIn. But now let's get to what I think is the most important one, because I don't want to be one of those video makers who say like which one's better, and at the end of the video say they're both great. That does not really who I want to say, who I want to be. So, in my personal opinion, if you had to pick just one of these to have in your your toolbox to help you in the job search process, I would 100% go with LinkedIn. And as a resume writer, that does hurt my soul a little bit to say that, but I fully believe that LinkedIn is superior to resumes. And they've actually shown that in studies as well, that while recruiters only spend about 7.5 to 8 seconds looking at someone's resume, they're spending far more time on their candidates' LinkedIn profiles. And they're saying that 80 to 85% of recruiters are actually spending significant time on LinkedIn to find candidates. Again, it allows you to be visible to so many more people. Your profile could be seen by thousands of recruiters without you reaching out to them. If your profile is set up in a certain way, with the right keywords, the right layout, the right everything, you're going to start getting messages from recruiters yourself, even without you having to reach out to them. And that's going to be a huge game changer in your job search process. Applying with your resume and hoping for the best is really going away quickly, that strategy. Nowadays, it's really networking, who you know, and just getting a foot in the door there with companies. And that's what LinkedIn really allows you to do. I think it's just an absolutely phenomenal platform that if you're not on currently, get on there really quick. If you're on the platform and you haven't used it for a while, or not sure if your LinkedIn is optimized, go use my Heroes Job Search Guide. Again, I'm going to link it below, but it's also on my website at recruitingheroesllc.com. Go check it out. It has a great amount of resources for your LinkedIn profile as well as your resume. And if you need more help, I specialize in LinkedIn optimization as well as resume writing, so I can help you with both of those. But LinkedIn for sure, I highly encourage you to get on there and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people, especially those who come from law enforcement or a military background, because those are the people I'm trying to serve the most. So if you haven't connected with me already, please do so. Now, I have said that LinkedIn is my favorite from those two of those, but that doesn't mean that you should only be focusing on LinkedIn. I fully believe that a well-structured job search process involves multiple facets, including LinkedIn, but also a strong resume and a ton of networking. You need all three of the three of those to really make this job search process happen. I always recommend starting off getting your resume and LinkedIn as squared away as possible. These need to be absolutely fantastic. And once they are, heavily network. Reach out to as many people as you can, asking to chat about their careers, their companies they work for, what they recommend, and just get feedback on people on your resume, on your LinkedIn, because they should always be evolving and getting better. I know this job market sucks. It's freaking terrible right now. People waiting months to get a job, people getting ghosted by recruiters. It really is a struggle. But once you have a strong resume and strong LinkedIn and really hone in on your networking, I can't guarantee you a job tomorrow, but if you're consistent with it, you will absolutely find a career that aligns with your interests. And I hope you take these tips and strategies to heart and spend the rest of today, tomorrow, the weekend working on your LinkedIn profile and your resume. Again, reach out to me at recruitingheroesllc.com. I would love to help you with your resume or your LinkedIn. If you can't afford our services, totally get it. What you can do instead, use our Heroes Job Search Guide. It's completely for free and it has a ton of resources that might benefit you. Also consider getting my book, Beyond the Thin Blue Line. I mentioned it earlier. It was an Amazon bestseller, and in it, I talk about resume writing, LinkedIn optimization, interview training, salary negotiations, and so much more. The ebook is like $4, so it's incredibly cheap, and the paperback is like $11 or something. What's also very cool, I'm still doing this. People think I'm crazy for doing it. If you get a copy of my book, share a social media post about it, preferably LinkedIn, since I love LinkedIn. Talk about the book, what you thought of it, if you liked it or didn't like it. Hopefully you liked it. But share a LinkedIn post. And if you do that, you'll get 50% off any Recruiting Heroes candidate services. So 50% off a resume, 50% off LinkedIn, even 50% off my all-inclusive career coaching package, which usually, costs, a couple hundred, couple $1,000s. And you can get that for significantly less by just doing a social media post about Beyond the Thin Blue Line. So I recommend you do that for sure. But anyway, if you have an opinion about whether a resume or LinkedIn is most important, comment below. If you disagree with me, doesn't bother me at all. I love having open and honest discussions. So do comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If there are topics you want me to cover in future videos, say that as well, because I'm always looking to provide the best products for you and services for you. So do comment below. Subscribe to this channel, and I can't wait to see you on the next video. Bye, guys.